I wasn't going to talk about this again, but here we are. I couldn't help myself. I just watched the entire interview with Gina Carano and Ben Shapiro. The link to it is below. I actually highly encourage you to watch the whole thing. It was very cool. It's Sunday, why not? But they go into her history as an MMA fighter, some street fights she got into. They talk about how she got into acting, how her family didn't want her to get into acting. They go in super detail about what happened with Lucasfilm, Disney, and what has happened since then. So very, very much encourage you to watch the whole thing. But we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things she said that I thought were really interesting and I kind of wanted to go over and talk about with you guys. So I'm going to show you a short clip from the interview and then we'll talk after that. Oh, and if you don't know what happened with Gina Carano, I think this is my 4th video I've made on the whole subject, but she is an actress, and we go through everything in detail in some of these videos. She's an actress. She lives in Hollywood. She works for a huge show, The Mandalorian, that's Lucasfilm, Disney. A few months ago, she sent out a tweet. It was a joke. The internet mob didn't like it, and they were all like, cancel Gina Carano, and then Disney Lucasfilm was like, we'll give her a talking to. So they did, and then they were just like super watching her for months, just waiting for her to do something. And she put out another tweet again that wasn't controversial at all. It was just, it made the Twitter mob angry because they don't understand history at all or the context of what she was saying. They completely misinterpreted it. So they were all like, fire Gina Carano, and then Disney Lucasfilm was like, okay. And they did. And I learned from this interview that she found out she was fired by logging on to social media. That was one thing I learned from the interview. Another thing I learned, so the interesting thing about Gina is she was never actually open about her political leaning. She said some things that maybe could lean conservative, I guess, but she never actually said who she voted for or what her political party was ever, so we didn't really know. But Ben Shapiro did refer to her several times on the show as a conservative, and she voted for Trump, so we do know that now. And so I'm going to play you this clip, and then we'll talk about it. But if you notice in the clip, you can hear, and something that really struck me from Gina, because she appears so tough, and if you know her just from the internet, she appears tough on the internet too, and she very much is. She's a very tough, very smart, very outspoken woman, but you can hear in her voice how this whole situation hurt her tremendously, and you can tell, and you can tell that it still hurts her now. So we'll play the clip and then talk about it.
Because I mean, we got down to this like statement within like 2 words, like almost like 2 words, this ridiculous thing, and they were like, and they just said it was not apologetic enough. And I was like, I mean, it was shocking. Like, I want to communicate. They wanted me to get, and all of these Lucasfilm employees are railing me on their websites. I mean, one of them, creative director, had a GoFundMe, and in the GoFundMe bio, it was like, this is because our ignorant actress, and and
so that was Gina. Also, I don't know if I said, but this is the first interview that she gave after being fired. But yeah, she goes into detail at what happened, and it was sort of our first glimpse into really behind the scenes as to what goes on with some of these studios or actors. And I'm sure this has happened to other people, but the original tweet that sort of put her on the internet mob's radar was basically, they were trying to bully her into putting her pronouns, I think, in her bio, or they were telling her that she needed to put her pronouns in her bio. And her thing was, I have no problem with people that want to use their pronouns, or I have no problem with the LGBTQ community, but I'm not going to just do something because you're telling me to. Like, that's my profile. I put whatever I want in there. And they kept coming after her and calling her out for this and bullying her. So eventually she put beep bop boop, and she said, okay guys, here's my pronouns. And it was a joke. It wasn't to be anti anything. It wasn't to make fun of any group. It was literally a defense against the mob, the internet mob. That's all it was. It was a joke. But because of this, this is how the entire thing started. And this was a few months ago. Because of this, they made her talk to LGBTQ community leaders. So she had to talk to them. She had to talk to like a social media slash internet presence, or however you want to call it, specialist, which she was like, okay, cool. She had to basically beg for forgiveness. She had to watch people that she worked for basically saying kind of nasty things to her online instead of having her back, even after she defended herself. And then they wanted her to take this really awkward, uncomfortable meeting where she was going to have to be alone on a Zoom call with all these people who were coming after her. The whole thing was just weird. And then she was accidentally sent an email where people were talking back and forth. And the whole thing was just weird and creepy and sort of Orwellian. So when you really understand that, and hopefully anyone looking at the outside that's like, why would she risk saying things on Twitter? Why would she risk this job for Disney? I mean, that's a cool job. You work for Disney, it's a huge show, plays a cool character. Just shut up and do what you're told. Like, be thankful that you have that job. But when you really understand what she went through, you understand why it was important for her to take a stance. And she also talks about, Ben Shapiro asked the question later on. He says, well, why, a lot of celebrities, they just, you send out your apology, you keep your head down for a little bit, and then eventually people forget about it, and then, you're back at it again. He goes, why did you not do that? Why didn't you just apologize and ask for forgiveness and all of that? And she said, which I thought was admirable, she said, what is going on is not okay. And she said, I don't want to out anyone, but I know so many people that are so scared to speak up, or that are so scared, even when they see something wrong, to say something because they are so terrified of losing their jobs. And she goes, it's just not right. And she said, if I stand my ground, if I don't cave to the mob, then somebody else, I'm giving other people courage to do the same. And she's absolutely right. I know just myself, she gives me courage. It's bullying anyone who thinks differently than you. And that's what it is. I've seen people labeled Trump supporters that are liberal just for maybe having a point that might agree with a Republican. That's how bad it is. And that's what she's taking a stance for. And something else she said, which I connect with very, very much. If you go back and watch my walk away video, I mentioned this. She said, another reason why I speak up is because I don't like a bully. I hate bullies. She goes, I'm not even that political. I just hate bullies. And that's very similar to me, which might sound odd because we're always talking about politics and cultural things in these videos, but that's really why I started speaking out. I used to be one of those people, and I really still am, who I can be with all kinds of people that disagree with me, and it doesn't bother me. I don't care. I don't need to convince you of my beliefs. I believe what I believe. You believe what you believe. We're cool. We can debate about it if you want, but if not, that's cool too. I don't think you're a lesser person than me, but that's not what's happening right now. I mean, I just personally, I got to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore. And I think that's how a lot of people are. I got to the point where, after the 2016 election, after I sort of had my walk away moment, and after knowing that, my parents vote Republican, I know tons of Republicans. I used to live in rural Virginia. I used to live in Colorado. I used to live in Denver. All these people that get on TV and virtue signal, all these celebrities, all these they have no idea what the average American goes through, what the average American's life is like. They are completely disconnected by that. Yet those are the same people that will get on TV and virtue signal in front of everyone. The same people that will get on TV or at parties and make fun of anyone who thinks differently of them, and make fun of those middle America people. It grossed me out, because they have no idea what some of these people struggle with, or they have no idea what it's like to be poor, what it's like to lose everything in a financial crisis, which a lot of these people did. And it just, I got so tired of it. And I remember every time I would go to a party, every time I would go to an event, or I would just be out to dinner with friends, it was always the topic of conversation. Someone always started making fun of Trump. Someone always started doing this. And I would smile and nod and smile and nod and smile and nod. And then one day I was at a party, and this woman who I didn't even want to talk to in the first place, I was just trying to be polite and trying to get out of the conversation. I just want to eat the snacks and drink the wine. That's all I want to do. And then go home. That's it. But she kept talking to me, bashing Trump and this and that, the normal stuff. And I did my normal thing. I smiled and nodded and smiled and nodded. And she eventually was like, because she kept wanting to get me to engage in the conversation. And eventually she was like, don't you watch the news, honey? Like, don't you read? And I was like, and I just looked at her and I was like, maybe you shouldn't assume that everyone else thinks the same way that you do. And I just walked away. And that was, walk away. And that was one of the moments where I started being like a little outspoken and a little outspoken and a little outspoken until now I'm at the point where like, I don't care. I'm going to tell you what I am. And if you don't like it, bye. And it's been a blessing. A lot of bad people have gone away. A lot of good people have come forward. But Gina, it sounds like it was very similar for her. She said, I just don't like a bully. And I started speaking out, not necessarily to be political, but because anyone that thinks this way gets just totally ratted on, totally slandered, fired from their jobs, and it's not right. So it was a really cool interview. Again, I encourage you to watch the entire thing. Learning what went on behind the scenes was pretty shocking. Learning that she found out she was fired by logging onto her social media was pretty shocking. She also had, before I go, she had another really good point too. She said, this Twitter mob, everyone is caving to these Twitter mobs. Who are these people? She goes, I don't even know who these people that came after me were. Most of them don't even have profile pictures or actually names. We don't know who these people are. Why do they have this much power? And why? And I agree with that. You get on Twitter and you think the whole world has lost their minds. And then you go outside or you go in public living your normal day life and everyone's fine. People respect each other. People are nice to each other. I never talk about race with anyone. I never talk about gender with anyone. Ever. We don't care. We have better things to talk about and better things to do and things that we want to accomplish in life. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Did you watch it? Are you going to? And I'll talk to you later. Bye.